Well, there's no love lost between the Defence Minister and the Defence Force over the latest sex scandal in the Australian military. An enraged Stephen Smith has labelled Defence either insensitive or stupid over its treatment of an 18-year-old woman filmed and broadcast while having sex with another cadet. The Minister has also refused to support the head of the Australian Defence Force Academy. Defence insiders and a senior coalition senator say the Minister has gone too far and is treating Defence unfairly. A federal police investigation into the Skype scandal is now underway. Karen Barlow reports.
Defence has found itself in another fight, but this one's on the home front. It's dealing with the fallout after a private sexual encounter at the Defence Force Academy was broadcast to other cadets.
I find the circumstances absolutely abhorrent, but I'm not going to say any more than that because I don't want to prejudice the very important AFP investigation.
But that investigation is only going ahead after the 18-year-old female officer cadet involved went public. On Defence advice, the initial AFP investigation wilted.
Defence didn't really fully comprehend the magnitude of what we now know to be the case.
AFP investigators are now attempting to speak to everyone involved. The AFP is examining the issue of consent and the use of the internet.
It depends on whether it's transmitted across a telecommunications device, for instance, what the circumstances are around there. And as I said, until we speak to all of the people concerned, I'm not prepared to say whether there is or is not an offence being committed under ACT legislation.
The young woman who made the complaint was punished yesterday in a disciplinary hearing on a separate misconduct matter, a decision that infuriated the Minister.
She was sentenced to 5 days restricted, which means 5 days where essentially she had to remain on the academy and docked 1 day's pay.
After calling Defence either insensitive or stupid yesterday, the Defence Minister today continued the attack.
Because of the way in which this matter has been handled, we now have very significant public issues so far as Defence's handling and conduct of this matter. That is entirely coloured by a very, very serious error of judgment in parallel tracking this issue with other disciplinary matters. And I've made that point very clear publicly and privately.
The Defence Association's Neil James says he's spoken to Defence chiefs and says the Minister is interfering.
Ministers just shouldn't do this. They don't do it in civil police matters. They shouldn't do it in military matters.
The senior coalition senator Nick Minchin has defended the head of the Defence Force Academy, Commodore Bruce Kafer.
The Minister himself knows that he's overreacted and I'm sure he regrets what he's done.
This, of course, is not just one incident for the Defence Force. It's the latest in a long list of scandals involving drunkenness, drugs, bullying and suicides. The culture at the Defence Force is said to be changing, but the former Defence Minister, Peter Reitz, says that's happening too slowly.
I'm not saying it's easy, of course not, but really I think we've just waited far too long for the ADF to catch up with basically community standards.
He's backed the current Minister, Stephen Smith.
Look, I'm delighted to hear that he was furious. Someone should be furious.
While the battle lines widen, the female officer cadet who made the complaint is now said to be on compassionate leave. Karen Barlow, Lateline.